or what if you really get connected somewhere, get settled, let God do a work on the inside of you, get planted so you can flourish, you'll find out that the impartation is the engine. Yeah. It's the engine in you. Give you that thrust, that power. Look at it. Look at it up there. Impartation is the engine. The power is, just like in a car, the power is in the motor. The power in the motor is the same. But in order to go in another gear, you must shift. Huh? Yeah, the impartation is the engine. Sometimes you got to know how to shift. You know what I'm saying? You know, you can get up here and I can get up and teach, and then one Wednesday is one way, then the Sunday is another way. You know, one Wednesday I'm getting up and I'm teaching, and another Wednesday I'm getting up and I'm preaching, and like tonight I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trusting in God. You get what I'm saying? I can't put a label on it. I just step out of myself and trust Him with the words.
Amen.
Amen. Give me the words. That's His ministry. Give me the words. Give me the utterance.
That's it.
I'm not thinking of them. I'm just opening my mouth like He said. You open your mouth, I feel it. Amen. You got to give Him something to work with. But I'm here to tell you that we got to. That's what happened with the impartation. It'll shift you. Guess what? Then the worship is never the same. It's the same song, but the shift ain't the same. It's the same scriptures apostle and prophet preached and shared, but the shift ain't the same. Huh? Come on, you know I'm telling the truth. It's sometimes you just know it's in the shift. It's not in the power. It's not in being baptized in the Holy Ghost. It's not having the anointing. It's not feeling good about yourself. It's being able to manage and navigate the shift. When the Holy Spirit and the wind of the Holy Spirit say this, don't say this. Say this, do this, don't do this. See, it's almost like a puppet. But see, that's when you stop living for yourself. When you can just go pull the strings, God. See, most of us ain't got to that place because we're so much in control. We want to manage everything. We want to put our hands on everything. We got to step out of the way and say, God, stand up in me. Because that's what impartation will do. You will no longer live like we said on Sunday. I myself no longer live, but Christ lives in me. That's what we need to do. We need to put them on as clothes. We need to be saturated in God. That's what it was when they said in Acts 4:13.
Yes, Lord.
It said they took note. And they knew that they'd been hanging out with somebody. That's my paraphrase. That had been with Jesus. That's how we're going to advance the church. That's how we're going to evangelize. That's how we're going to have signs and wonders. That's how we're going to have the power of God. There's going to be a people with a fresh fire, a fresh zeal, a fresh passion. That they ain't got no vested interest in, other than seeing Christ lifted up. They ain't got no hidden ambition. They ain't got nothing secret. I ain't got nothing secret. I don't care if I ever get on charisma. I don't care ever if I'm received in certain circles. It ain't even about it. If you don't understand it, I've been this long in it, I don't care. I don't have to rub noses, shoulders, or nothing. Nickels either. I ain't rubbing nickels. It's about God.
Yes.
It's about what He wants to do. He got to be high and lifted up. I want this train to fill this temple. The train can't fill the temple because King Uzziah haven't died. In the year that King Uzziah died, Isaiah 61, he said, I saw the Lord high and lifted up. And His train filled the glory, temple. You know what I'm saying? The train of His glory filled the temple. But King Uzziah had to die. Self be strong. See, we got some kings that ain't died yet.
All right.
We domesticated them. They're prisoners of war. They ain't died yet. They're still in a room somewhere. Every now and then they knock on the door. But we're in a season that they have to die. Those things that have been exalted on the inside of us so that we can change our perception. And we can say, I saw the Lord. That's when we'll be able to go forth. That's when we become true witnesses. When we can say, I saw the Lord. I didn't hear about the Lord. Pastor didn't tell me about the Lord. I ain't have to go to the prayer. I ain't got to go on the prayer line to hear about the Lord. I ain't have to, buy the book to hear about the Lord. I saw the Lord high and lifted up, far above all my situations. See? And that's why we haven't seen anything. That's why the church haven't truly seen. We haven't got a revelation of him. It's all hearsay. We get a revelation of him. You need to see him. That's why they were so rambunctious. That's why they was so radical. And they were revolutionary. Yeah, that's it. That's what they were. I told you I'm down on my own speaking. Amen. But I'm serious. They saw the Lord and they seen the whole process. And we can do the same thing. I'm closing. We got to get to that point. Power is in the motor. In the motor is the same, but in order to go into another gear, you must shift. There's a level of incompleteness in us because it's a measure of our humanity. And most of us have made our humanity king. It's Lord. It has a higher rate of operation than the Spirit of God is in us. When you really tap in and somebody lay hands on you, somebody prophesy to you, somebody tell you your destiny, somebody tell you what God is calling you into, trust me. In that moment, you'll begin to see, I saw the Lord high and lifted up. I'm not focused on it, what's going on in my life. We don't have those. I told you before, I said we haven't had an encounter. Most churches don't ever have an encounter. People live all their life, never had an encounter. You need to have at least 2. I can look over my life and see 3. I was called to the ministry on a fast. Then I got confirmation. I didn't just come out of prison and say, oh, I've been called. I had to go sit. I was called to sit. Before I was called to serve, I was called to sit. And I enjoyed it. I just gleaned it. And I knew it was a part of my process. Making my wineskin so that the new wine would have something to contain it. Ah, boy. Prophet and I, next week, we're going to talk about some real deep stuff. It's going to help us out. Help the body of Christ out.
Amen.
I believe there's another level of understanding. This church, if you've been connected to this ministry any length of time, something has to bring a level of transformation. Just think about the cave of Adullam. Anybody remember the story? Here you have a rejected heir to thee, running from a maniacal idiot, trying to keep his life. And he hangs out in the cave. Am I right? Away from Jerusalem. Because he don't know when Saul going to show up. But then they spoke of a group of men that understood his process. And they came, they were confused, they were indebted, they were dismayed, but they hung out in the cave long enough. Even though they was in transition and he had expectations of ruling and reigning, they served him in his humanity. Then all of a sudden, you'll find out I think they said it was 22 years later, they became mighty men. And then you go to 2 Samuel 22, I think it is, and you'll find out how they fought for certain things. Even to the point where David got old and up in his age. And he went out to fight with one of the Philistines giants. And the light of Israel almost went out. And they said, forbid you go out to battle anymore. They had took upon themselves the identity and the warrior that David was, that he didn't have to fight no more. Oh boy, if y'all caught the spirit of what I just said. He didn't have to be in the trenches all the time. He didn't have to be on the front lines all the time. He didn't have to be the one that always teaching. He didn't have to be the one always preaching. They were transformed from the cave of Adullam, which means the justice of his people. No, it's not democracy, it's theocracy, but it liberated God's people. This is capable of doing. And some of you guys came in with certain personality quirks. I'm just saying, a little quirky. Just a little bit. And some of us still haven't gone through the whole process. But on the other side of whatever predicament and perplexity and distress you're in, you need to tell yourself, yeah, look at that. Capable of doing. Philistines. I think that's the chapter that I was talking about, 23rd chapter. Look, this was before the book of Acts. This was before now I'm born of the Holy Ghost. Only 3 people carried the anointing. Prophet, priests, and kings. And yet, he wasn't in full authority. His potential wasn't all the way formed yet. He just had a word that God was going to do something to him. They connected to that earnest of what he carried. And it transformed everything about those who were affiliated and bought into his calling. Well, I don't feel what, hold on, Pastor, I've been here long enough now. Hold on. Help me. Come on, dial the right buttons. I just did. When you get in covenant, start connecting correctly, guess what? You start stepping out of yourself. And you can say, well, I heard God say in the corporate body. I hear a song from God. And you can stand up. Yeah, it may not be all together, but at least you stepped out. Amen. Say, I heard God say. We've been trained, we've been activated. How much more activated? How much more oil do you need? We need to import something straight from Jerusalem. Get you straight. No, you don't need no more. You're right. 99.